goes to Bible. Last week we did the pleasing taste of a good book. And we have all this lovely kitten pictures that put you in that place. We talked about creating the Word of God. I introduced the concept of being comfortably uncomfortable. That God's desire for us is not to kick back our lives, but to experience the pain and the discomfort that makes us look to Him for the real comfort. He wants us to understand both sides of it so that we seek Him for the real comfort. So we're going to continue that this week with another level of godly comfort. We have now fully digested the words. We have chewed the words. We have swallowed the words. We have digested them and processed them through all of that process last week. And now we're ready to cuddle up in the warm embrace of the blazing fire. And since we're doing that, I decided it would be fitting for me to remove my shoes. Because that's what happened in our scripture today. When there is a fire present, the shoes come off. We're going to see if they're connected or not. I wanted to fit in either way. Speaking of fitting in, these shoes have been wonderful for me. I was given a very large amount of shoes as an inheritance. When Lenny's father passed away, he had a bunch of shoes in his closet. They were all New Balance shoes. And they were all perfectly size 11. They were all shoes that I was able to wear. It was something that, it worked out for me. I mean, it's not the way you want to get shoes, obviously. But I was able to inherit his size 11 shoes. And I decided to kind of spread them out as that coming 7 pairs wearing. Do a week with one pair, then a week with another pair. Depending on what color jeans I'm wearing, I might wear the light gray ones versus black ones. I'm walking or getting like a dirty, or doing yard work, I might wear a different pair. But I wanted to keep them going because I felt like as long as I'm walking in these shoes, I am continuing his steps. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this significant symbolism of every step that he took in these shoes. I'm going to make sure that keeps going. I'm going to keep his shoes alive and walk the same steps so that legacy can keep going. Because that's the kind of bottom line. Speaking of father-in-laws or fathers-in-law, we're going to go to Exodus 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. You got to go to the valley. You stand for the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that the bush was on fire and did not burn up. So he's attracted to it. He's desiring to know more about what it is. He sees it in the distance, and it's a curious sight. He wants to go toward the curious. Not afraid of it yet. This is not a fear thing at all. This is, what is that? Verse 3. So Moses thought, I will go over, and I will see the strange sight. Why the bush was not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush and said, Moses! Moses! Moses said, here I am. He's still not afraid, right? Even though something that shouldn't be talking is talking, and it knows his name. He's still not afraid. Not yet. Hasn't identified what it is yet, but it's not something that scares him. Verse 5, do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. And then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face, because he was afraid to look at them. Now he has fear. It's reverent fear. It's fear for who it is, who now he's going to identify and now he knows. Not a fear that makes Moses run, though. He's still captivated by the fire. He's still drawn to this fire. And when God tells Moses to take off the sandals, he's telling Moses to do something very, very specific for specific reasons. And there are people that will argue what that reason is. There are people that say it's one thing or another thing. I think 3 things happen. When Moses takes off the sandals, when God commands him to take off the sandals, there are 3 things that get accomplished all of the exact same time. The first of those is that around us, we found that ancient Egyptian customs required people to take off their shoes before they were approaching the king. Whether it was for some sort of appearance of submissiveness or maybe a level of respect. It's hard to say specifically, but we know that there is evidence that that was a custom that took place. And Moses spent most of his life in an Egyptian household, understanding Egyptian life, and would have made this type of connection to say, oh, wait, we do this when this happens. Before he even knows who he is, he's going to realize that he is royalty because he's asked to take his shoes off. Second thing that happens is that he's showing Moses there is a specific place. That there is a line that can be crossed. He says, do not come any closer. Here's the line. He is so close that he was physically in the presence of God. He was close enough to see his face. Which brings us to our Hebrew word that we mentioned hundreds of times last year, and hopefully you all can remember that word. Well, hopefully Ken and Chris remember that word because I make him say it all the time. What's the word that means presence? PANYIM. PANYIM. Yes, good job. Let's give him a hand, shall we? If nothing else, I will make sure that people memorize Hebrew words in this sermon. PANYIM is the word, whenever we are referencing God's presence, that is the Hebrew word that is used. But it also means face. It means both presence and face. It is countenance. When you are close enough to see someone and the features of their face, you are close enough to be in their presence. So it's translated both times the same way. When you're in the presence of God, you should respect that he has asked you to be in his presence. You are being invited into his PANYIM. Like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. There's the outside neighborhood, and then he walks in the door. And when he walks in the door, he takes those shoes off because now he's in a very, very special place that he wants you to come into. We're all neighbors, but when you're in his house with him together, let's cherish the fact that this is his special place. We're going to do special things here. Off come the shoes. Hello, neighbor. That's part of this, is that there is a specific place that God has ordained him to, that in this moment, in this time, nothing should desecrate this sacred space. No dirt, no crud, nothing to walk through. All the things that were stuck in your shoes before, that remind you of the sins of your past, all the things that made you feel like a crummy human being. Leave them at the door. Walk into my presence at a certain level of concentration and workings. Which also sets the standard and the tone for what's going to happen later. When we have the tabernacle being built, and we're going to talk about the tabernacle later, but we have in this, we have the beginnings of the foreshadowing of the holy place and the most holy place. That God, by saying, take off your sandals at this line, he is saying, you have now come into my presence, and this is a specific area. So we have, inside the tabernacle, we have an area that is divided by a curtain, that in one area, certain priests are allowed, but past that curtain, there is only one high priest who is allowed. The only one who is allowed to be in that sacredest of both places, of most sacred places. To be able to speak and converse and interact face to face directly with God's presence. That's what happens now. The third thing that happens from God asking them to take his hands off, which goes right into what we talked about code vibes last week and this week as well. He's making Moses get uncomfortable. This mountain is not the back nine of Kenwood Country Club. There's no curated green spaces. There's no filtered playground sand that you're walking through gently. This is not a place you go for a spa day. This is a jagged, rocky, rough mountain. And it can be painful. It could either poke you in the bottom of your foot with a rock, or there could be scorpions, or who knows what else. It's a place where you want to shoes. And for God to say at this moment, nope, you're with me, take your shoes off, it's allowing Moses to understand in that moment, this is going to require me to put a little more extra work into understanding the faith. And knowing that God is the one asking to do it, God is asking you to put trust in him. Like Ezekiel last week, the things that make you uncomfortable, things that make you fear, if you allow God to be in that place in you, if you crave him to be in that place in you, where you can overcome that fear, it puts you in an uncomfortable spot. But that's where he wants you to be. trust him in everything. God has invited Moses into his house. Wherever God chooses to be, wherever he wants to appear, is his dwelling place. He asks Moses to step up, literally and figuratively, to be the leader who appears before Pharaoh. We know all this story, right? And to demand that the Israelite people be set free, and so they can worship God in a place where he has chosen them to live, in a place that he has promised to his ancestors long ago. Way before Moses, this place was promised for them. And God is asking them to be the one that becomes their leader and does that. And of course, Moses said, absolutely, Lord, no problem. Sure, I'll do that. No! Because this is where Moses' fear is. Exodus 4:1. Moses answered, what if they don't believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? Then God showed Moses a sign. Then he can show the people. Then he shows them another sign. And then he shows them a third sign. But we go down to verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, this is now after he's been told what he can do. Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave you a means of mouth? Who makes them deaf from you? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. He's saying to him, I don't need your excuses. I've got this. Your shoes are off. You're with me. Trust in me in this. We're doing this together. You are in my presence. Again, Moses, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. He is standing barefoot before the God who created the universe, hearing him tell him personally from a fire that he wants him to go be leader. Showing him two miraculous signs, and in the process, Moses still says, ask. This is not a fear of God. This is a fear of self. This is Moses displaying his own insecurities by saying, I don't think I'm the guy that you really want this. And in some ways, I get it. I'm sure we all get it. Like, from Moses' perspective, he's speaking to the God of all the ancestors, from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He is speaking to the God who has had thousands of other people before him that this same God has known as descendants from the same bloodline, the same heritage. He could have picked any of them. The person that he's standing in front of, or the person that's standing in front of him, doesn't see himself as someone that needs to be a leader like that could ever be the person in that selection pool for leadership. He doesn't understand that there's an honor and distinction of being chosen by God. It's more like he's seeing it as a volunteer sign-up form with a really impressive manager wanting to look for it, asking for people to sign up for a thing. And Moses has never had to sign up for the thing. He's never needed to be the instrument for God. He is still not yet part of the Red Sea. He has not made any of these plagues happen. We are still talking to a man who was just in love with a woman who's hiding away from somewhere, trying to impress that woman's father. Leslie's father was my math teacher. And so after we got married, anytime we were at his house, I would try to figure out a way to incorporate math in the conversation. Because you do that, you want to impress the guy that taught you, like, hey, I still remember. I can still do this equation. That's why we did geometry proofs a few months ago. I want to make sure it's still in there and keep spitting it back out. God gave him an invitation. He gave Moses an invitation to go back, go to Egypt, face the people. Everybody he's hiding from, go put your shoes back on, and I'll be with you. Put your shoes on, and I will be with you. We know the story. Moses appeared before Pharaoh, other signs and plagues. The Israelites were released. Every step along the way, Moses is building more trust with God, more determination to carry God's will, and less fear of self. He's getting the confidence to understand he was the one put into this leadership position. He was the one that God really did want, even if he didn't get it when he was on that mountain. He takes people on a journey to battle with long, and while they're out in the wilderness, the relationship between God and his people gets promotion. God gives instructions for the building of that tabernacle we were talking about earlier. It is a dwelling place. That's what the tabernacle is. It's a dwelling place. A physical structure that will serve as a place where God can make his presence, his PANYIM, appear, just like that burning bush on the mountain, in a specific place that has a definitive line to say, don't come any closer, or you will see my face. And that place would be the location where consecrated and chosen individuals would enter into the most holy place to appear in God's presence, to speak with the fire, so that the entire Israelite nation could have atonement and peace. And best of all, it was portable. God didn't give instructions for a brick building that they would make once they made the final destination. He gave them commands to construct a house that would move. It would go wherever they went. Because God wasn't waiting for them at the finish line, He was with them in the race. He was going before them in the sky. He was showing them the direction to go. He was fighting alongside them in battle, being strong. He was descending down into the tabernacle to speak with them in person. Wherever they were, wherever they had their shoes on, He was there. He was with them. And eventually Moses wasn't there. Because even great leaders are still human. And humans eventually die. And others have to step up and lead. All is not lost when leadership changes hands, regardless of whether you like the old leader or you like the new leader. Someone else takes over, and then someone else after them. I think you can be relevant there for this past week. I wake up at 4 in the morning on a good day, and on Tuesday morning I decided I was going to leave my house about 4:30 instead of the normal 5. To go to work a different way, so that I would be driving past my polling place, where I would be able to voting for a lot of other things later on the day. And I remember, I've never done this before, I decided I wanted to specifically go past it while it was still quiet, while it was still just an empty parking lot. And I just wanted to do a drive-by prayer. I just wanted to say, just a little, God, please, for this place, let there be peace today. I don't want to worry about who's going to be in charge. I don't want to worry about who wins any of these elections or the way it goes. I am just asking right in this moment for there to be peace in this one place today. Because when it comes down to it, someone's going to win, and we may not all care, we may not all like who wins. But if we can have peace in that moment, I would know that there was at least something that we all had in common. It took 7.5 minutes for me to go there. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, that was God's answer to the prayer or not, but it was the quietest, calmest, most friendly election I've ever been in. It took 7.5 minutes for me to leave my car and get back in my car. You know, things are going to change, but the faith of those being led should not. Because wherever we go, wherever our shoes are, whoever's in charge, we can still be in His PANYIM. We can still be in the presence of God. So we can have the fire within us, because it is a tabernacle of our bodies. We can move wherever we move, and it's still in us. And we know that to be true because someone else, after Moses is gone, someone else takes over. Joshua 5:13. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with his drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies? Which side are you on, angel? Are you a red or blue?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence, hiding his face, and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy." Because it didn't matter which leader it was, wherever God is where the holy place is. And Joshua did so. Step up to the challenge, guys. Stand near the fire. Because He desires you to do so. He desires you to crave that fire, to be comforted by that fire. James 4:8, come near to God, and He will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, purify your hearts, you double-minded. Make your house clean, so that you can take your shoes off when you need something, because it's in here now. Make your heart ready for the visitors to come in, to make this is the sacred place. 1 Chronicles 16:11, look to the Lord in His strength. Seek His face always. That face, that's upon me. Seek it. Desire it. Crave it. And finally, The psalm that David was psalmically saying earlier. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. For in the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high on a rock. And then down to verse 8. My heart says of you, seek his face.